What's going on, guys? Salute to everyone that's tuning in. I'm Jay the Black. In this video, we're going to talk about Cam Newton. He was another casualty of the ESPN layoffs. Just a year after signing a multi-year deal with ESPN, he is being fired. People say, oh, these are layoffs. No, these are firings, right? Especially what happened with Ryan Clark. Now, I did a video on Ryan Clark. Y'all can go and check it out. My most recent video, I spoke about one of the faces of the ESPN firings this year has, been Ryan Clark. There's been several others, but I want to talk about Cam Newton this time because Cam did not need ESPN. He did not need First Take. Now, did he appreciate the extra money that he's being paid? Absolutely, being on ESPN every week. But Cam Newton has his own platform, right? He has his own. Not only does he do, I believe we call it a podcast, but he does it where he speaks on topics, right? And then he does his interview show where he interviews people, right? So Cam Newton already was doing other things. Y'all remember when he did the 106 in Sports? It was the sports edition of what 106 in Part was. I think it didn't work. It only lasts like a year, right? But he's done other ventures as well. I think Cam Newton, again, he's going to be fine. In my previous video, I said I think that Ryan Clark will be fine. They have their own platforms. Cam Newton has his own platform. That's why I think that, all Cam has to do is put more of his effort and creativity into building up what he already has instead of looking for a job from ESPN. Now, he got a lot of kids, and Cam talked about how difficult it is that he no longer makes that NFL money and he has all these kids to take care of. So I understand that, more money he's making from being on ESPN. I understand that. But ESPN is in a very weird place where they're making all these different investments. They're investing in the ESPN Plus, right? They just bought the NFL Network. They're paying Pat McAfee all this money, right? Stephen A. Smith is getting paid. And by the way, Stephen A. Smith is talking about how powerless he is to stop all of these people he's cool with, all these brothers, from being fired. It's funny because if Pat McAfee wants somebody, that person is going to stay. He's not going to get fired. Whatever Pat McAfee wants, he gets. Because he has basically become the face. People think that Stephen A. Smith was the face. No. Pat McAfee is the face of ESPN now. That's why they're offering him $60 million a year. Now, again, I think these guys, the Cam Newtons, the Ryan Clarks, they definitely should lean more into their own platforms. You really don't need ESPN. ESPN is a shell of what it is. No one really watches ESPN anymore. ESPN is a declining brand. Now, would you like to be on a network? Because again, with Ryan Clark, right, like he was not only on the NFL broadcast, he would, be on when they would do, because they're going to do the Super Bowl. They're going to have a lot of people watching this show. So him being a part of that production, being there, it would do a lot for him, right? But again, I think that his public negotiations, I think his issue with Peter Schrager, which I don't think went away with like people think it did. I think it lingered. I think that there are people who behind the scenes at ESPN, I think they turned on Ryan Clark. And he had no idea, right? So that's why I say these guys who have their own platforms, they need to double down on that. Instead of looking for work when you have your own, work on building your own. You waste a lot of time when you're doing your own thing, but you're also putting a lot of effort into something. Then when they fire you, then what? You have to go back to what you were, the foundations of what you were building. Now, Ryan Clark did build the Pivot podcast while he was with ESPN. Cam Newton built what he has outside of what he was doing with ESPN. He was already working toward. That's why they brought him in. That's why ESPN brought him in. Now let's get into this. Given his recent addition to the talent roster at ESPN, quick rise through the ranks at First Take. Cam Newton is one of the most surprising names to be let go in the latest rounds of layoffs at the company. Newton joins a list that includes NFL analyst Ryan Clark, Major League Baseball host and play-by-play man Carl Ravitch, injury expert Stephania Bell, Sports Center anchor David Lloyd, NFL Network reporter Tom Pelissero, and NFL Network analyst Charles Davis. Because remember, they bought the NFL Network. The news of Newton's ESPN departure was first reported by Outkick's Bobby Burek. So somebody at ESPN leaked this to Outkick. I wonder who it was. I wonder who was, because y'all know Outkick is like more of a right wing of the sports media. They love talking about what's woke and what's not woke, right? While some of those personalities have been with ESPN for many years, Newton had just signed a multi-year deal with ESPN last August to expand his role on First Take shortly after becoming a regular contributor on the program. He was brought on board as a replacement for Shannon Sharpe, who had departed ESPN in the summer of 2025 amidst an assault lawsuit and subsequent settlement. Newton was a central debate partner for Stephen A. Smith through football season, most notably making appearances at the show's HBU visits. You know what's funny? I'm surprised that he didn't get let go when he hit that mascot. You know? But they kept him on. They kept him on after that, right? Cam Newton has been a lightning rod for his media throughout his media career, both on ESPN and on his own fourth and one podcast. The former Carolina Panthers star was no stranger to controversy and polarizing comments, and perhaps that's part of the reason why ESPN decided to cut ties now, so soon after inking him to a multi-year deal. But Cam Newton is not controversial. Cam Newton speaks his mind. That's what you want. That's what Pat McAfee does. He speaks his mind, but only a certain person, I guess, get to speak their mind on that network. Doesn't mean I agree with what everything Cam Newton says. Doesn't mean y'all know I disagree with Ryan Clark. But again, if they're good at what they do, and you know, you fired them, even though you gave them raises, you gave Ryan Clark a raise, you gave Cam Newton a new contract, and then you fired him. It lets me know that there's been discussions about turning the page on the network. But anyway. During the season, he was at the center of a very strange vendetta that First Take had with Patriots quarterback Drake May. Oh yes, this is something I think that should not have been. It shouldn't have been a controversy, right? You should be able to criticize players. I mean, these guys get on ESPN and have said horrendous things about athletes over the years, right? Look at the things that Skip Bayless has said. Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is out here, he's out here really going at these pro athletes. But anyway, in February, he made bizarre comments about women's value being tied to the number of children they have. Criticism even came from colleagues within ESPN as he was criticized after having Stephen A. Smith's arch enemy, Jason Whitlock, on his podcast. In response, Smith stated that there were a number of reasons why Newton's First Take presence could be questioned, but that he was still supportive of his appearances on the program. And yet, Newton's time with ESPN and First Take is now surprisingly over before the beginning of 2026 football season. You know what? This all ties in. Let me tell y'all why this ties in together. This is one of the reasons why Cam Newton is gone. I don't think Cam Newton would have been gone if Stephen A. Smith wanted him there. I'm gonna be a conspiracy theorist right here. Stephen A. Smith was pissed when Jason Whitlock went on Cam Newton's show. He was pissed. And it looked like publicly Stephen A. Smith had sort of gotten over it, right? They spoke, they gotten over it. But I don't think Stephen A. Smith privately got over that. I would not be surprised if ESPN came to him and said, hey, do you want Cam on the show? And Stephen A. Smith said no. Because Stephen A. Smith seemed like a very petty man. He does. I think he's a very petty man behind the scenes. And he's acting like he has no power whatsoever. I just don't believe that. If you really, especially on a show you're co-hosting, you are responsible for First Take. But I bet you, not only did Stephen A. Smith not go to bat for Cam Newton, this is my opinion, I have no proof, but I could have seen him saying, you know, we could get somebody else. You can get somebody else to take take Cam Newton's place, and we won't have to pay him a lot. ESPN President Jim Pitaro addressed ESPN employees in a company-wide memo on Tuesday morning as more layoffs were being reported publicly. In the memo, Pitaro said the move centered around an examination following ESPN's acquisition of NFL Network as part of NFL's equity deal with the network, but that the other parts of the company would also be affected, apparently including one of ESPN's flagship programs. Listen, like I said, man, if Stephen A. Smith really wanted him there, he'd be there. But I think Stephen A. Smith he never forgot. I don't think he ever forgot Cam bringing Jason Whitlock on his show. I really don't. Call me a conspiracy theorist in this moment. Maybe I am in this video, in this commentary. I just believe if Stephen A. Smith really wanted him there, he'd be there. I really do. Because he works with Stephen A. Smith. It's different if he's on a different show, right? Like Stephen A. Smith said that he had no power to help Ryan Clark, but what about Cam Newton? Let's talk about that, right? So let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Like this video and share it. Follow me on all my social media platforms. If you're new, subscribe to the channel, click notification bell, and I'll see y'all next one.